It's the lifestyle that gets you into trouble. It's lifestyle that gets you out of trouble. People are always chasing hacks because they want something quick, fast, plug and play. I've learned that it's not us that heals. It's what we're connected to and the speed at which we can connect others to that powerful thing that makes your life easier. That makes their life easier. I think anyone can say, I'm in touch with something so much more greater than what can be taken from me. The pattern I saw was this breathwork energy was like money. How you invested it is how you get it back.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into the Vibrant Soul Society, The Conversations. Our mission for the show is to help you discover that you are greater than your thoughts, then beyond our thoughts is our divine essence. So we're going to flip the script a little bit. I'm your host, Baba Sam, but we're going to flip the script. So I just had this brilliant talk with Tim, and we decided we're going to just start with breath work. So Tim, the floor is yours.
Baba Sam, thank you so much for those people listening. We are going to start this episode how we should start every day, creating the right vibrations inside of us with our breath. It is so simple. We are going to breathe in, breathe in, breathe in, breathe in, and breathe out, breathe out, breathe out. Now, this time when we breathe in, we're going to breathe in again and again and again. So breathe in, then breathe in more, 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 more. Hold it, give it a bit of a wriggle, 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 and then let it out. Ah. Now, did you notice when you breathed in again and again, there was some extra space opening up in your top third of your lungs? Okay, we're going to call that your secondary inhale. And what I love about my job is I show people how amazing their bodies are. Now, what everyone doesn't know is in their thumbs and fingers, if you pinch your thumbs and fingers together, that's a little power button. And we're going to hit that power button when we breathe into our secondary inhale. So have your power buttons ready. We're going to blow it all the way out, blow it out, 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 blow it out, shake it out, blow it out, shake it out. Breathe in, then hit those power buttons. In more, hold it more. Now give it a wriggle, wriggle your shoulders, feel that chest opening up, feel that chest opening up. And if it feels good, let it out with a sigh. Ah, ah, ah. All right. So we're going to take a even more enjoyable inhale by breathing in through our nose only. So when we breathe it all the way out, our mouth's going to be closed and we're going to really snort it through our nose. We're going to double the speed of the inhale and really make a snorting noise with our nose as we push our fingers together and pinch. Is everyone ready for that? Everyone knows what they're doing. They're going to blow it all the way out, mouth closed, breathe in really quickly through the nose. Blowing it out, 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 shake it out, shake it out. Start breathing in through the nose, really snort. Look to the ceiling, open up that chest, open, open, open. Now, looking to the ceiling, open that chest, wriggle, wriggle, wriggle. Feel it opening up. Feel your chest like a flower is opening up. And if it feels good, let it out with a sigh. Now we are just going to take 5 of those breaths and then relax back down into our bodies. So blowing it all the way out, out, out. Have your sort of fingers ready. Blowing it out, blowing it out, blowing it out. Mouth closed, rapid inhale. Snort, look to the ceiling, lean back, look to the ceiling, open that chest like you've never opened it before. Wriggle those shoulders, and let it out with a sigh. All the way out, 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 out. Getting ready to breathe in again. 4 more, breathing in. Really snort it. Open that chest. Look to the ceiling. Lean back. Feel how wonderful it is to be open. Feel that chest opening like a flower. There's a warm sun on that flower. And then let it out with a sigh. 3 more, all the way in. Really snort this one and open up. In, open and stretch, open and stretch. Feel how like you can open more and more each time, and then let it out with a sigh. Out, out, out. This time, really blow it out more than you've blown it out before. Out, out, out. And then two more. Last one. Breathing in. Look to the ceiling, open up, lengthen it. Really notice how you can lengthen it, open it, wriggle those shoulders, and let it out with a sigh. Now, this last one's going to be a little bit different. We're going to inhale, we're going to hold it, and then just fall forward. Okay? So blowing it out, blowing it out, blowing it out, blowing it out. Breathing in. Now hold it and just collapse your head forward, Let that air go into your belly. Put your hands on your belly, Let your air go into your belly and let it out super slow. Let it out with a and just sitting back in your chair, letting that chair support you. Feel those muscles touching that chair, relaxing, and acknowledge yourself. You've just taken 5 deep, proper breaths, and the energy that you have in your body right now, just allow it to do what it's supposed to do. Energy has an intelligence all of its own. It'll relax you, it'll lift you up, it'll do what it needs to do inside your body. You just let it do what it does. I hope you enjoyed the start of this wonderful podcast with Bubba Sam.
Thank you, Tim. That was amazing. Just imagine the world if we all started our day that way. I think the world would be a kinder, gentler place because we're waking ourselves up. And speaking to a doctor earlier, he talked about taking these conscious breaths to start our day to get the conscious mind engaged, put the subconscious asleep, to all that negativity to make it subside. So it's really beautifully bringing that consciousness front and center, oxygenate the body. We're all going to be so much better. So thank you, Tim. That was quite amazing practice. So
How's your
people that
body
are,
feeling, Bubba
oh,
Sam?
I'm always relaxed. I'm always feeling good.
I love it.
I'm not one wrapped up in the daily drama. I'm pretty grounded and rooted in this moment. So, but it's just a beautiful practice, and I will be playing this too to start my day because it's such a beautiful practice. It's a really good way to start the day.
Oh, look, it's the lifestyle that gets you into trouble. It's lifestyle that gets you out of trouble. People are always chasing hacks because they want something quick, fast, plug and play. But it is the lifestyle choice, the easy things that we do regularly. And breath work is one of those things that I've noticed that the more I invest in my breath, the more return I get from it. And I'm a guy that lost 6 years of his life to pills when I told a doctor I couldn't sleep. And no one tells you there's a benefit to taking pills, but no one tells you the massive cost to taking them as well. And no one tells you how hard it is to get off them. And certainly nobody told me that breath work was something that you could use to give yourself the best night's sleep ever, to alkalize the neural pathways, to bring healing to your body. It's anti-inflammatory. All my pain medications I got off, I don't have a lot of cartilage in my lower back, and breath work is my main form of pain medication. And again, no one hears about this because no one's making money. It became very apparent when I started my healing journey in the veteran space, Bubba Sam, that there was more money to be made by me staying sick. It was really up to me to get that ball rolling. And it wasn't until I actually had a chronic injury that I realized we're not in an age of information right now. We're in an age of marketing. First 6 pages of Google, marketers. Loudest voice in the room, marketers. And there's a very big difference between a marketer and a healer. A marketer are really good at telling you what you want to hear. And when you're hurting, you're quite vulnerable. Oh, yes, that's exactly what I needed. I needed Superman to fly in and save me in one pill, But they're about repeat sales, and dollars will leave your pocket and years will go by and the person ends up blaming themselves, But if you find a healer, they are harder to find. They're not as obvious. But what And they know that they're human. They know that their energy's not enough for two people. But what they do have, Sam, is a connection to something super powerful. And it might have taken them 10 years to create mastery of that connection, but they can give you that in far less time. And there's no repeat sales. You've just got access, and that is one of the best things I love about breath work is once you introduce people to it, once you open their eyes to it, there's no closing them again.
Yeah, I totally relate to your story because you were 6 years of sleep medic. I was on decades of 13 daily medications with all my stuff because it was
Yeah.
just keeping me sicker and sicker. And people were asking me once I restored the body, healed myself, is like, well, did they study you to see how they do this? They don't want anything to do with me. I'm bad for business. So I'm really curious, what got you onto the breathwork journey?
These things usually always start small. Mine wasn't particularly mystic. I was ex Special Forces, Australian Special Forces, and I was fatigued as hell in the dirt of Afghanistan. We never really got anything you'd call sleep, but you train for fatigue, but outside the wire in a war zone, it goes to a whole new level. You're losing mates, you're having limbs blown off others, and any time you do get horizontal is limited. One thing they teach you in the army to take a sight picture, they figured out that breath work calms the body. So they'll get you to take a deep breath in and exhale before you squeeze the trigger. And so I'm there fatigued as hell in the dirt, but my mind was still racing. My body was tired, but my mind was racing. I focused on my non dominant pointer finger and I just took breaths like I was breathing into the tip of my pointer finger. And I breathed into that, and eventually that turned into light. Then I breathed into my index finger, my ring finger, and then my whole hand. And then I could breathe it into my whole body. Whatever sleep I got or any time horizontally, I woke up feeling so much better. I'm not a breathwork person, but I'm dyslexic. I see things in patterns. The pattern I saw was this breathwork energy was like money. How you invested it is how you get it back. And you put $1 into breathwork, you get like $1,000 back. So I thought, well, I'll just keep investing into this as a survival mechanism. And I didn't know what it was. It was just this instinctive thing my body did when I was in this really deep state of fatigue. It wasn't until I got out and had a cold sore. And I just mentioned to my mate, oh, I'm going to go down the shop and spend $20 on lysine. He goes, no, 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 don't do that. Do this particular breathwork technique and you'll get rid of this cold sore. And I did it and it saved me $20. And I'm like, whoa, is there something to this? Right. And then I started working in the veteran space. There's all sorts of ideas around what can help somebody. Everyone's got an idea of what's the best thing for other people, but it's really just a reflection of who they think the other person should be. So I noticed that if I could improve the sleep of the veteran with PTSD, everything in their life improved. So I started making all the programs that I started creating in the veteran space, in the veteran charity I was working for, with the success factor was rated on how much it improved sleep. It was just this magic thing. I wasn't a breathwork person, but I just saw the patterns. The saying, sleep is the soil from which everything grows. I really like that saying because the world we live in is very visual. If someone doesn't have their trunk in the way they want it, or they don't have fruit in the life that they want, then there's plenty of things you can buy from the outside world to enhance that. But somebody who really understands how to make a tree grow doesn't look at what everyone else sees. It goes into the unseen, into the soil. And there's a lot of parts to us humans that aren't on the spreadsheet. And I've noticed if you can nourish those parts, all of a sudden your sleep improves. And when that improves, it just everything sort of gets lifted with it.
Yeah, that's such important work. That's why I tell people I don't know what's best for you. I don't know your recipe, but yet I see these medical systems and they're constantly giving you pills and whatever else because that's what they're doing for everyone. So I think it was really important that you're doing this veterans mental health work for the PTSD because I see this before they're just over medicating, not treating the root issues. So thank you for your service and really helping those veterans with that mental health. It's such an important topic and holistically doing it without costing a fortune. Your journey was just that one, the breath work and sleep is how that led you into the veterans work?
Well, no, it was somewhat accidental. I was going through my own stuff. And then when I started getting out of it, I noticed there's a lot of other veterans in the same space. I did what a lot of people do when they're recovering from a mental illness is they'll start recovering themselves, they'll see a bunch of other people that need help, and then they'll sort of forget about themselves and help others because it's really powerful helping another human, but there comes a point where you're kind of taken away from yourself. Like I thought, oh, it felt good to help 3 or 4 people. Let's help 30 or 40. Let's help 3 or 400. Let's help 3 or 4 thousand. And I'd scale up. And the thing was, Bubba Sam, my goal was to save 40 veteran lives from suicide. And I didn't care if I worked the rest of my life to do that. But that actually happened within 12 months because one of the metrics of success was sleep improvement because we've got everything we need. We are like nature. You give nature time to heal, it will, and it will flourish in no time at all. But what nobody knew was every 6 or 7 weeks, I'd have to write myself off for about 3 days with alcohol because I was using helping others as an opiate, as a pain relief, and as much as I was doing good work, I wasn't healing myself in the process. I've learned that it's not us that heals, it's what we're connected to and the speed at which we can connect others to that powerful thing that makes your life easier, that makes their life easier. Is the continual facilitator. Like you do have to make the introduction, you have to do that properly. But if you always have to be there holding someone's hand for them to make the connection for themselves, you're not really serving them and you're not serving yourself. And that's what I was doing for the longest time before I started working on healing this myself properly and then dealing with other people's trauma and journey.
Yeah, I totally understand that we are focused on helping others. That's why I really make my daily self-care a practice that's non-negotiable. Every day I'm doing my meditation, my exercise, all these things before I help others. Otherwise, it's just going to be depletion for me if I don't strengthen my own self up first.
Yeah. You said a mouthful there, Sam. And my favorite saying now is I don't give of myself anymore. I give of my abundance. If I was at 100% and I gave 10% away to somebody, there's a part of me that says, I'm down to 90%. You better do something with that 10%. But if I invest in me first and I'm at 500%, I can give away 20% a day and they can love it, hate it, tell me to F off, it doesn't matter. The point is, I'm in touch with something so much more powerful than what can be taken from me. That's about the most powerful statement I think anyone can say. I'm in touch with something so much more greater than what can be taken from me. Because we've all been taken from it and we end up living a life trying to stop that from happening again, which unfortunately shuts us off from the source. I've been that guy where, I've lost a few dollars and I've spent years chasing it, whereas I could have become an energetic millionaire the very next day if I invested in myself, And I guess that's my goal, to live like an energetic millionaire and help others do the same.
That's a good goal, to keep yourself strong and healthy. Then you can actually help even more people because you have extra energy.
Exactly. We can give of our abundance more consistently, regularly, more joyfully. Before I was even on this podcast this morning, I knew I was really wanting to be here with you in a state of abundance. It's quite early here, but I got up when it was dark, did a bunch of breath work, did a bunch of chi work, went for a run with my dog, saw the sunrise, did some stretching, jumped in the ice bath so I could be in my energetic, abundant state and give of that. I think there's two completely different types of people in this world, and they're both me. There's the me that invests in themselves, creates an abundance, and life is good, man. But then there's the me that doesn't invest in himself, always looks outside of himself for strength. It could be extra coffee on a good day or extra beer, but on a bad day, I become an a-hole because I need energy. I can't generate it myself, and I've got to take from others. And I have to understand that I'm human. If I don't I'm subject to the same laws as everyone else. If I don't generate the energy in abundance, I'll be looking to get energy from outside of me. If you ever wondered why there's so many a-holes in this world, it's because they simply don't understand how to generate their own energy and they still need it. So they take it from others and they get really good at it.
Yeah, the really standing in their own strength. So I just want to talk a little more about this veterans' mental health and how
sure.
you assist them, because I see that this is really lacking in our society here in America. They talk about all this veterans mental health, but they're still popping pills or doing all this traditional medical system. And I see that they're not really helping them. They're not really helping them stand in their own power, which is what you're talking about. They're still being plenished by the outside, this medication and that, but nothing like standing in their power.
Well, standing in your power is something that, look, the veteran space is somewhat difficult to crack if you're an outsider. They'll listen to their own, but they won't listen to anyone else. The words that you say, they may or may not listen to, but if a veteran says it, then they go, oh, that guy's walked our past. They don't do themselves any favors in the way that they isolate themselves.
Mm.
But you're absolutely right. In the world we currently live in, if there's anything wrong with the head, they'll just throw a pharmacy at you. And that's what happened to me. And because they are dealing with the spreadsheet, they're dealing with what's seen. And to be honest, there's vested interests in keeping people sick. You make more money from keeping people sick from a prescription standard. I think this world would be a lot more productive and would have a greater total sum game if there was more options other than just pills. So when I say you make more money of people being sick, certain people make money off the veteran community being sick. But there does come a point in every veteran's journey, and the sooner they ask this question, the better. And that is, it's really up to me to find a way forward. And it starts with the question saying, how many other people do you think, and this is not just for veterans, this is a question I came to that changed my trajectory. It can change the people listening. It can change your trajectory right now. And that is whatever you're up against, whether you're a veteran or not, but a lot of veterans come up against this because sometimes their symptoms are a bit more acute. But whatever you're up against, if you ask yourself this question, how many other people are in the same situation as me, that's up against the same thing? When I asked myself that question, I'm like, oh, there's got to be tens of thousands of other veterans in the same situation as me. Now, if you've got breast cancer, you could say, yeah, there's tens of thousands or whatever it is. And I ask everybody to give that a number of whatever you're up against, how many people are in that same situation. Give it a real number because those people exist. And if you can find a way forward for you, you can find a way forward for them. So it's a really good idea to line up those people, that number in your head. For me, it was tens of thousands of veterans. I lined them up left and right of me, and they're all looking in, willing me on, saying, Tim, if you can find a way forward for you, you can find a way forward for us. And that is sort of the villain hero juncture. You either go, I'm going to make a way forward for me and help others do the same, or, F the world, I'm going to isolate myself and justify why I'm so messed up and blame others. I found that most people, once they start moving forward, those people left and right of them, possibly that most of them they haven't met yet, but as they move forward, they meet them and they essentially say words like, I'm so glad you chose what you chose before you even met us. I would definitely be in prison if I hadn't made that conscious choice of seeing those people left and right of me. And then you can see that any incremental gain that you make isn't incremental. If you're gaining just an inch, if you've got a million people left and right of you, you're not just gaining 1 inch, you're gaining a million inches. You're not just making one appointment with a specialist, that's a million appointments. So you're not one in a million, you're a million in one. That's when the script starts getting flipped, because when we start experiencing pain, it's not the pain we can't handle. The pain gets to a certain duration or intensity where it transforms from just being pain to being loneliness and isolation. And it's the loneliness and isolation that we simply can't handle. That's the ultimate pain for us humans. The easiest way to break isolation that I've experienced is asking myself how many other people are in that same situation. You're no longer alone. You've got all these people and they are genuinely willing you on. And one day you will genuinely meet them and you will be the one that will be able to break their isolation. You are now qualified. I came to this through the veteran space, but it could be breast cancer. It could be whatever it is. You are qualified to break their isolation. And that is one of the most powerful things that you can do for another human.
So what was coming to mind is like how many other people are facing this issue. But what I'm finding, especially in the medical space, the support space, like there's a Facebook group with 80,000 members that deal with migraines and headaches. And I was in that space too, had a migraine and headache. I don't have them anymore. But to that group, all they know is medicine. All they allow really in that group is medicine and talking about medicine. That's it. So then how do you break through when you see like can help these individuals, but they got blinders on that, oh, this other world doesn't exist. It's only medicine. What can we do with that?
Yeah, well, firstly, you might have heard me push back before when I use the term help. Okay. I don't actually like using that term. To me, you can't help anyone as much as you can't change anybody.
Right.
But what you can do is plant positive seeds of thought and create an environment where those seeds have the highest likelihood of growing. And what I've often found is that if you can have one or three people that experience what you have to offer as a healing modality, then that creates some really powerful momentum. If you can get a small group going that has access to the power that you offer, it's amazing how quickly word spreads, because everyone talks to each other. So in the veteran space in Australia, we call Australian soldiers diggers because they're always digging holes. So there's the digger net is quicker than the internet.
Mm.
So when people were saying, how did you reach so many veterans? I said I started small and I started making a big impact to a small number of people. And then all of a sudden, everybody knows somebody and it rapidly starts spreading. The trick is to create access to that power and permanency. So it's one thing to run a big event, it's another thing to give permanent access to that which you offer regularly. So if you were trying to reach people in the medicine space, you would start with people, and say, look, do you want to give this a try? And if not, they may have to let their head bounce off the concrete for a couple more years before they go, you know what, I remember Baba Sam a few years back, and they might circle back and go, you know what, we might give this a try now, you know. So I'm no longer the guy that puts his hand between their head and the concrete. If someone wants to bounce their head off the concrete a few times, I'm going to let them. And that's the same thing with my kids. I'll put my hand there for a couple of times, but the rest, you're going to have to learn that hitting your head against the concrete doesn't work. So sometimes in love, you've got to go, look, I got to let you go. Do your thing. Ignore what I'm saying. But here's the positive seed of thought, and then just hold space in your own life becomes a testament to what you're living. And the energy that you put out there, it's more powerful than you think. We all know some a-hole that just the thought of them in your head takes energy from you.
Mhm.
But the opposite is also true. When you're aligned with what you're supposed to be doing in this world, if you're pursuing that which lights you up and brings more love, more peace, more joy, the very thought of you gives them more energy, more options. That is one way to create an environment in someone's head for them to grow those positive seeds of thoughts, just being aligned with who you are and knowing that the thought of you don't even have to be in the room, can give people more energy, more options.
Yeah, I love that. That's what I do in these group now is positive seeds of support. It's like, I understand what you're going through. It is very difficult sending you prayers. And that's all I do in those groups is just those little positive nuggets, is a little encouragement because I really like what you're saying that loneliness and isolation is the hardest pain that we face. So just those positive seeds of thought. Hey, I understand what you're going through. Sending you love, wishing you well.
Well, there, see, that's not on the spreadsheet. Breaking a person's isolation is not on the spreadsheet. My experience of it is when people really realize that they're not the only one going through something, their jaw kind of pops open. Okay. Their jaw pops open. And in the veteran space, they'd swear. And then they'd say, I thought I was the only one. And when I saw that jaw pop and that admission, I knew that that was the start point of their healing journey. And so I combine breaking the isolation of people and then getting them out of fatigue, because isolation, loneliness, that often creates fatigue. And fatigue creates more isolation and loneliness. It's a spiral downwards. But if you can break that isolation with words, but then get them out of fatigue, that's the kicker, because breaking isolation is super powerful, but veterans are really good at creating these antisocial social groups. I can only be myself around other people wearing that used to serve in the military, or I can only be around people that are depressed. It feels so good to be around other people that are depressed because it breaks my isolation. But it's like this halfway house. You're not actually getting out of that. You're not going to the promised land. So breaking the isolation is the first step, but you've got to be careful that that doesn't become a place where people just hang out. Ideally, your healing journey gets you to the starting point of you giving your gifts into the world. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to give generously into the world and feel powerful doing that. It's funny that the things we go through, the things that we didn't want to go through, often become the most valuable parts of us. If I'm talking to veterans, I say, look, you might not feel like you're special, but I bet you've been through some shit. And it's our job to turn that shit into fertilizer. And the stinkiest shit, the stuff that you don't want to touch, becomes the best fertilizer that helps everything grow. And it might take you a week, a month, a decade to turn that into fertilizer, but that's how much time you can save other people in the process. And I think that's about the closest thing to a human superpower you have. If you can imagine one conversation with you, Bubba Sam, saving someone 10 years, like that is a genuine superpower. Ironically, it's not what we do that adds value to others. It's what we've come through that adds value to others, that other people see us as valuable because of what we've actually come through.
Yeah, that's really it, that we have to become the living examples that there is a way forward, that there is another way, and be the light bringers, I guess you could say, that there's a way to do this. Follow me and we'll take it step by step and we'll get there. For me, it's just sitting, being who we are, and for you, it's just breath work to help us get where we are. And it's all these journeys lead us back to ourselves, and it's such a beautiful thing. So, Tim, if people had questions, how could they reach out to you?
Very easily. 3 words: breath work in bed. Okay, think breakfast in bed, breath work in bed. Okay, this is across all the socials, but look, if you want to turn your bed into a cloud tonight, look up the Breathwork in Bed app. Okay, I designed that so people can have an easy and effortless lifestyle of breath. You tell this thing when you want to sleep, you tell it when you want to wake up, and it just falls out of your phone. So you just tap that button, press play, and you get guided to sleep in the most amazing way, and you get guided out of bed. And that's a real game changer. Waking up in the morning and activating your system, connecting to yourself, going into the day with $1 million of energy, as opposed to, owing a debt and having to fill it with coffee, energy drinks, or, I know me, my favorite one is I start seeing faults in everything. That's my favorite way of knowing that I don't have enough energy, is when I'm just seeing faults and I'm picking these fights in my head and seeing all these problems. I'm like, okay, Tim, stop. You are not in abundance right now. You need to take a few breaths and get yourself back in the driver's seat. So the point I'm trying to make here is Breathwork in Bed, the online resource. It's available on Google, Apple. You can access that and it'll be your best friend going to sleep and getting out of bed.
Yeah, it sounds like a brilliant app. I'll have to look at it myself. I think the way we breathe naturally isn't healthy.
Well, sitting down, and that's why, we only took 5 breaths at the beginning, but they were 5 relatively proper breaths. If I had like an hour with people, I could really show that, there's 5 different muscle groups to the inhale. The trick is, if we can put something into our lifestyle that feels good and is easy and effortless, we'll do it regularly. You know, it feels good, more please. That felt good, more please. And, I'm at the point where I'll probably do about 2 hours of breath work a day. People wonder why. And I'm like, well, it feels amazing. It is anti-inflammatory on all my joints. I love martial arts. I love throwing down wrestling, full-on wrestling with my Brazilian jiu-jitsu with my 20-year-old son, who's an absolute brick, you know. And I simply couldn't have the energetic lifestyle I wanted if I didn't have access to this free, people realize it's not a set of lungs they own. It's a medicine cabinet with a lot of different shelves. You want to
Mm,
create a certain set of chemicals, you breathe a certain way. And again, you don't hear about this sort of stuff because no one's making money. So that's why I'm so super passionate about making, breath work easily accessible. And, we get to reclaim our own sovereignty when we discover the amazing bodies that we've all been gifted.
yeah, that's such a beautiful way to wrap up. I really enjoyed those insights, these beautiful insights about the conversations. So thanks for joining us, Tim. I really appreciate it.
My absolute pleasure, Baba Sam.